Hello, all you creepy crawlers out there. Welcome to the Blowing Smoke Podcast. I'm your host, Kimiko Kusanagi. So light up and listen in. I'm a 41-year-old hopeless romantic goth mom of 3. I'm a paranormal enthusiast and a horror fanatic. I worked as a SFX makeup artist for a haunted house for 7 years. I enjoy music production, and singing. I'm a movie nut, so you can catch me always watching something. I enjoy cosplay, photography, art, drawing, video games, and I'm a digital creator. In this podcast, you can expect a wide variety, so like, share, and subscribe. Now with that out of the way, and you got to know a little bit about me, let's talk about today's topic, ESP. Extrasensory perception, sixth sense, or second sight. It's a claimed paranormal ability pertaining to reception of information not gained through the recognized physical senses, but sensed with the mind. So basically, what this is going to encompass is intuition. And intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge without recourse to conscious reasoning or needing an explanation. This is your gut feeling, or trusting your gut. Telepathy, and it's a purported vicarious transmission of information from one person to another without using any known human sensory channel or physical interaction. Psychometry. That's the ability to gain information about an object, person, location, or physical event through touch. Then there's the 4 clairs, which we will get to in a little bit. And empathy, which is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference. That is, the capacity to place oneself in another person's position. And that can encompass a broad range of social, cognitive, and emotional processes, primarily concerned with understanding others and others' emotions in particular. Then there's precognition and recognition. So let's talk about the 4 clairs, okay? We have clairaudience, which is hearing voices. Clairaudient messages are short, calm, and straightforward messages. Sometimes the message will be, one word or a number, and sometimes you'll get a ringing in your ears when you're receiving a message. Then there's clairvoyance, which is seeing images. Clairvoyant messages arrive as an image or a scene, and usually comes a metaphor, but can be like watching a movie of an event that has happened. Clairsentience is recognizing feelings. Clairsentience is the most common of the 4 clairs, and these messages often come through a feeling or instinct, like the gut instinct or intuition. Then there's claircognizance, which is knowing. Claircognizance is when our brains get an immediate download from our intuition within just a few seconds, and usually this is like a large flood of pictures and images and sound. And a lot of these, of the 4 clairs actually go hand in hand. So we also have types of empaths. So there's physical empath, which is when you're attuned to another person's physical symptoms and you tend to absorb them into your own body. So if somebody is feeling sick, somehow you feel sick. Emotional empath, which, when someone picks up on the emotion of others. An intuitive empath, which is a component of being an intuitive empath without it being a defining factor. So it could be, it's a broad spectrum of intuitiveness. You just feel how someone else is feeling, but with your gut. There are dream empaths, and they can receive intuitive information from dreams that help themselves or others. Plant empaths, that they can feel the need of plants and connect with their essence. There are also earth empaths, and basically they're the same thing almost as a plant empath, except for it's a broader spectrum of nature, so rocks, trees, rivers, things like that, so more of a nature thing. There's also animal empaths, and they can feel and communicate in a soothing manner with animals. All in all, these abilities are able to be tapped into by anyone at any time if you train yourself to do so. Our minds are capable of so much, and we use so little bit of it at a time. Drop in the comments below if you have ever had any instances where you've been an empath or had empathic ability, or just in general, any of the 4 clairs. Would love to hear that. I'm always good for stories. I, as an intuitive tarot reader, can gather more information than what the predetermined card meanings say, and that can be helpful to a person who needs something answered. It feels like I tap into a person and I can just pick information about them just out. And I can even do this at a long distance. I've done this over the phone. It's kind of creepy, but pretty awesome at the same time. It's funny, when you have these abilities and stuff, that it's a lot harder for people to lie to you, because then you're trusting your intuition and that gut feeling, and you're like, yeah, this motherfucker over here is fucking lying to me. You can just fucking see it like fucking a mile away sometimes. It's pretty amazing. I've been on the phone with people and picked out random pieces of information. Like, hey, do you have a tattoo of like Mickey Mouse behind your ear? And it turns out that that's their hidden Mickey. If you don't know what a hidden Mickey is, it's a Mickey Mouse that you hide somewhere on your body. Tattoo form. Other than that, this happens like on a daily occurrence with myself. Not just with my tarot readings and my cards. They help. They are like a conduit in a way to help me focus and for me to receive information about the person that I'm reading. If I'm doing a general reading, it's not the same. It's more of my spirit guides, my ancestors, and my higher self that give me the information when I do a general read. But a personal reading, I tap into that person and I can find some crazy crap out about you. It's funny, when I was younger, this was before we had like direct deposit for our taxes and whatnot, but I was able to basically sense and know when like my tax check was literally in the mail. I'd be like, hey, could you like go check the mail, because I'm pretty sure the taxes are in today. And lo and behold, poof, the taxes were in. Same thing with like phone calls before we had caller ID and on our cell phones and everything. I could just, by listening to the ringing, know that mom and dad are calling, or so and so is calling, and whether or not to answer it or not, and let it go to your answering machine or voicemail at that time. It kind of makes me wonder if technology in general has dulled down our senses, because now we have the capacity to get information on anything and anyone and see what's going on in their lives through social media and stuff like that, that we don't get the information like we used to through intuition, through gut feeling, through empathy and whatnot. Yeah, there's still people out there that are not using social media and not using as much technology as a good portion of the people actually do use. And, maybe they're a little more attuned. But nowadays it seems like if you want to use those types of abilities, you have to train yourself. And the training can be quite tough and extensive because it depends on what you're working on. If you're working on your intuition in general, or if you're working on one of the 4 clairs, or just empathy in general. But on the flip side, there are some people that are literally little blocks of wood, brick walls, that cannot tune into these abilities, not as well as most other people can, and or they block it out. It just kind of depends on the person. In my opinion, it seems like children who they don't have siblings, or their siblings are around all the time and they had to play a lot by themselves, and have a really great imagination like I did, that you trust your gut more. You seem to be more open to these things when it comes to ESP. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think that children that have great imaginations and basically had to play alone and whatnot have better ESP versus children who had siblings around and didn't play alone? Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to paranormal investigating and ESP. They can go hand in hand, and ESP can help in the sense of, trying to track down ghosties and whatnot. But it's not necessary. But ESP can help. If you think about it, like, have you ever been into a place and you're just like, like, this place does not feel right. Like, there's definitely something going on here. And turns out, like, maybe the place is haunted. Or that some type of trauma, like, happened there. Like, oh no, like, this place feels like someone got murdered here. Or, just conflict in general has a certain sense to it. You walk into a room and people were just arguing or fighting. They leave the room, but that feeling, that tenseness is still there. It seems like when people pass, that can happen as well, or a traumatic event where someone was murdered or whatnot, that tenseness is still left. And people can pick up on it. Not all people, but people can pick up on it. Hence the many, TV shows about psychics going and helping the police and whatnot. They're able to go to a location and be like, wow, this is exactly where the murder took place, but this is not where the body is. Like, how are they getting that information? Through ESP. I think the biggest thing about ESP in general is how, as a society, we look at these psychics and people like that, empaths and whatnot, as kooks. That they're crazy, or that there's something wrong with them. I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's anything wrong with listening to your body, listening to your intuition. And if you're getting information from something or somewhere that you previously did not have, that's an amazing thing. Not something that's kooky or creepy or weird. It's really a normal thing now. Like an everyday scenario. You're going to the store with a preconceived notion of what you're going to buy from said store. You get in, you drive, and while you're driving, you get this thought like, crap, it's probably not in stock, and I'm going there for nothing. And then you get there, and you find out, guess what? It's not in stock, and you did go there for nothing. You should have trusted your gut instinct. That's part of ESP. Or you see a friend's post on social media, and it seems like it's just a normal post, like, just a status update, and you get the feeling that something is off. And then you contact them or call them and check in with them, and, find out that they're not having a really great day, or, something bad did happen. They just didn't post it or say anything about it, but somehow you knew about it. Taking the time to hone in and train yourself to decipher, the messages that you're getting, man, it can take some time for you to, like, really listen to yourself. Because there's that cloud of doubt that always sets in and makes you rethink what you're feeling sometimes. So I'm only going to briefly touch and talk about telepathy, psychometry, precognition, and recognition. I myself have never had any experience or known anybody that has had a telepathy moment or a psychometry moment, which was, to pick up an object and get some information from just touching an object. Now, precognition, that one's a little harder because, precognition is future viewing. So obtaining some type of information from the future that you don't already know or possess. That's kind of what a tarot reader does. So precognition is kind of my thing, but also recognition, which is hindsight or past viewing. I can obtain information that has happened in the past through my tarot reading and whatnot. So I do have a little bit of experience with the precognition and recognition, but not so much with the telepathy and the psychometry. But if you have, go ahead and leave me a story in the comments. I would love to hear about it. With empaths, it's funny to think about, physical empaths. Like, that would be the perfect ability to be able to get out of class when you're younger. Oh no, I feel sick. And then present symptoms of being sick when you're not actually sick, and then you get to go home early. That'd be great. It sucks being an emotional empath, because, you can be walking to a room, or you could be talking to somebody and they're giving you some bad news about what's going on in their life, and you feel it. You can feel someone's heartbreak. And that's a terrible, terrible feeling. But on the flip side, you can also feel somebody's unconditional love. And that's great. I've never had any dream empath moments. I've had dreams. Most of my dreams are just really weird, and I gotta decipher them. Like, I'm sitting on a boat with Steven Spielberg, and we're eating tacos, and we're talking on the phone to Justin Bieber. Something that makes absolutely no sense. On a rare occasion, though, I do get dreams of, past relatives and whatnot, and having conversations with them. But most of the time, I don't really remember the conversations. I remember that I was there and they were there in the scenario, but not so much the information that they were actually giving me. So, I'm not so sure about dream empathy. Now, plant and earth empaths, I've never been able to do that. I can't keep a house plant alive to save me. Like, my dad was a great gardener, and he was able to, grow so many things, and he did teach me how to do some of that stuff, but for the life of me, I cannot keep anything like a plant alive at all. I kill house plants. I can't keep flowers alive. I can't even keep flowers alive in a vase. So, I'm definitely not like a plant empath or earth empath, because I'd be killing some stuff. Now, with animal empathy, it kind of depends on the animal, I guess. You really have to be able to tap into them. I can't say that, every animal that I come across, I'm going to be like, oh my god, this animal needs this, this, and this. I'm not that in tune with the animals. It has to be an animal that I'm close to. My dog, Janie. She's not feeling so well. I can be like, hey, the dog's not feeling so well. And she'll go outside and go eat some grass and yak it up. Normal dog stuff. But, from outward appearances, that dog looks completely normal. You wouldn't have been able to know, hey, her stomach wasn't feeling so great. But I was able to. I could see the signs and sense that she was not feeling so great. So, creepy crawlers, I got a question for you, and I would really love the feedback in the comments about it. What do you think about channeling? Is channeling a form of ESP to you? So if someone's channeling information or channeling another person or spirit to obtain said information or get information, do you think that's part of ESP? So a great movie recommendation / book recommendation is The Dead Zone by Stephen King. That is definitely an ESP story right there. It follows Johnny, who basically gets in a really bad car accident and is in a coma for 5 years and suffered some brain damage. But when he wakes up, he experiences clairvoyant and precognitive visions triggered by touch. He refers to that information as being trapped in the part of his brain that is permanently damaged, or the dead zone. It also follows a serial killer in Castle Rock and the life of a rising politician, which is Greg Stilson, who is played by Martin Sheen. Both whom are evils that Johnny must basically face. It's a really good movie. and a really great book. Another movie recommendation would be The Gift, which I believe has Kate Blanchett, Katie Holmes, Keanu Reeves, and Hilary Swank. So, in the tiny town of Brixton, Georgia, where nothing's private, a woman with supernatural clairvoyance helps. She gets information about a beautiful socialite who mysteriously disappears. Also, if we're gonna go ahead and give out recommendations, TV show Medium is really great. It ran for quite a while there, and it had some really good storylines, and it's loosely based off an actual psychic. It's funny if you really look at it, and let's say you go into Google and type in psychic movies. Most of these movies are more paranormal than ESP. Someone speaking to a ghost, or channeling a spirit, or having telekinesis and abilities like that, which I didn't cover because I don't believe that telekinesis or any of that kind of stuff is part of ESP. That's, telekinesis is moving stuff with the mind. It's not obtaining any information or feeling. At least on my part, I don't think it is. But for the most part, a good portion of these psychic type movies usually end up having to do with some type of murder, some type of ghost, and the actual clairvoyant and or psychic. If you're looking for more information on ESP, you can just go ahead and type it into Google, but I will give you one website. It's Psychology Today. So www.psychologytoday, and then look for the ESP, a map of human consciousness in Psychology Today. It's a really great article to read if you want to know more about ESP, at least from the science standpoint. Random fact: hypersensitivities are often misinterpreted as ESP. Bet you didn't know that one. Alright, creepy crawlers, one more question for you. If you want to go ahead and leave, your feedback in the comments or whatnot. Twin telepathy. I would love to hear some stories about twin telepathy, because, obviously I don't have a twin, but I would love to hear about it. It's a special connection for many twins and triplets and whatnot, that you guys can feel each other's emotions, you can get other types of information. But yeah, I would love to hear about twin telepathy. Okay, so story time, haunt related, not ESP related. I worked at a haunted house for 7 years, and during my time there, I came across what we had was haunt house ghosts, basically, because the set pieces all came from different locations. Some came from different haunts, but some came from actual locations. There's a mental hospital that closed down, and the haunt received a lot of old medical equipment from that place, so energy's attached to it. But we had haunt spirits. Each house basically had its own house spirit, in a way. There was a little girl, not really sure why, but she only popped up when something bad was going to happen to an actor. We had a tall man. Even though he wasn't really tall, he just floated and made himself look tall, and he was in one of the set pieces. You would see through the fog sometimes in another part of the haunt, not shadows, but if something walked through the fog, it would pull the fog and leave a trace, and you would see that all over the place because of the fog machines, and it was pretty crazy. Well, I was upstairs in makeup, and we had a spirit of some type that he was a groper, and he only groped women. And it didn't happen very often, but it did happen to me one season. I was doing makeup on somebody with the airbrush, and my back was turned and faced away from the line of people and stuff. And I felt something touch my bottom. I turned around and there was nothing there. And I looked over at my makeup manager, And she basically was like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Something touched my butt." And she's like, "Oh, well, it's bound to happen. We have a ghost up here that likes to grope girls." It seemed like you weren't really part of the haunt as a family until you had some type of experience there. And, it's crazy how many people got touched or have seen things in a run-of-the-mill haunt. It's like a breeding ground for spirits or something. It's the one place that they can hide and technically be themselves. Plus, they can gather all this energy for the season from all these customers and then the actors and stuff like that. That's a lot of energy. A lot of energy to gather. I can remember one season I had to come back after the haunt was already done and closed to go pick up my last check. And I'm sitting there. It's dark because everything's turned off. And the manager was nowhere to be found at the moment. So I'm yelling across the haunt to the manager. And, I hear, "Hey, I'll be up there in just a moment. So just wait there." So I'm standing there and I'm waiting. And one of the animatronics just goes off. It goes, "Arr." It's a giant monster. And I'm like, "What was that?" And when the manager gets there, I tell him about it. And he's like, "Oh, you'll get used to that." I'm like, "Get used to that?" He's like, "Yeah, that happens a lot." I'm like, "I thought everything was off." He's like, "Yeah, everything is off. So, yeah, that should not be going off because there's no power to it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "They're just letting you know that they remember you and they were happy that you came back." And I was like, "All right, cool." So, there we go. Haunt stories for this episode. Alright, let's go ahead and recap what we learned today about ESP. So ESP is what? It is extrasensory perception. It's a sixth sense, a second sight, or your gut feeling. And that encompasses intuition, telepathy, psychometry, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognance, empathy, precognition, and recognition. There are types of empaths. There's a physical empath, an emotional empath, intuitive empath, dream empath, plant empath, earth empath, animal empath. We have all had some ESP experience at some point, and if you look at it and break it down, ESP can be part of your daily life, that gut feeling. We should all be open in all forms for information and in communication, because nothing is a coincidence. Some spiritual guidance for today would be receptive to information, communication, and love. Well, that does it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed your time with me. And whatever you're listening on, make sure to subscribe to this show so you don't miss out on the next one. And if you're looking for tarot readings, you can go hit up my other channel, which is Kusanagi Divination on YouTube. If you're looking for private readings, you can go to my OnlyFans, which is under Kusanagi Divination, and my prices usually run for just a regular reading around like $5 and up. You go ahead and stay creepy like Kimiko Kusanagi. Bye!